Empires don't crumble overnight. Democracies don't fall into authoritarianism in the blink of an eye. But a recent survey of political scientists warns that America under Donald Trump is sliding into a form of authoritarianism that we now see in countries like Hungary. An NPR report defined this as so-called competitive authoritarianism when, quote, a leader comes to power democratically and then erodes the systems of checks and balances. Typically, the executive fills the civil service and key appointments, including the prosecutor's office and the judiciary, with loyalists. He or she then attacks the media, universities, and non-governmental organizations to blunt public criticism and tilt the electoral playing field in the ruling party's favor, end quote. Does that sound familiar? In an op-ed in the New York Times, the former United States ambassador to Hungary, David Pressman, issues a similar warning. Pressman draws a direct comparison, you should read this article, between the actions of the Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, and tactics employed by the Trump administration here in the United States. Since 2010, Orban has led Hungary's slide from democracy. That's the year he came back as Prime Minister after leading the opposition for several years, and since then, he's done a lot to consolidate power and become Hungary's longest-serving Prime Minister ever. He slowly replaced civil servants. He undermined the independence of universities or shut them down. He politicized the courts. He repeatedly changed the Constitution to gain electoral advantage for him and his party. During the coronavirus pandemic, he gave himself emergency powers, and he's kept them ever since. Rather than challenging what Pressman calls authoritarian advances, he argues Americans, like Hungarians, are acquiescing to them. Pressman writes, quote, after years of watching Hungary suffocate under the weight of its democratic collapse, I came to understand that the real danger of a strong man isn't his tactics. It's how others, especially those with power, justify their acquiescence. How others justify their acquiescence. Pressman notes that after Orban banned pride parades in Hungary, look at this, an estimated 200,000 brave young gay Hungarians, I don't know if they were all gay, but an estimated 200,000 Hungarians still took to the streets to illegally celebrate Pride, while Hungary's elites were notably silent. And while it's usually the youth that rebel against restrictive policies like that, many of today's young voters in Western countries are shifting to the political right. Tom Rodriguez, a pollster and researcher in Washington, wrote an op-ed in The Hill in which he says, quote, economic anxiety fueled by resentment toward mass migration is rising dramatically among younger voters, making governing without far-right parties nearly impossible. So what does this all mean for America? This slide into authoritarianism is a real threat for various reasons. Public acquiescence, demographic shifts, they're going to be with us even after Donald Trump is gone. For more on this, I'm joined by Jason Stanley. He's an expert on authoritarianism, on propaganda, on free speech and democracy. He's a professor of philosophy at the University of Toronto in my hometown, and the author of multiple books, including Erasing History, How Fascists Rewrite the Past to Control the Future. Jason, thanks for being here. You and I know this stuff. We've talked about it, but I thought how Pressman put it in his article was really important. That we've actually passed what Hungary is doing in some cases, but the ingredients are the same. We're going to keep the vote somehow, and yet nobody can defeat Orban in Hungary. Every time it looks close, it doesn't happen.
These parallels have been made since 2018, 2017, between what Orban has done in Hungary and what Trump aimed to do and is doing in the United States. And they become solidified even more with Trump's praise of Orban and Orban's visits to the United States, such as his CPAC lecture and his visits to the Heritage Institute when they were devising Project 2025. I thought the most powerful point in the article to which you allude was the point about elites. That elites think they can be more clever, they can outfox the autocrat. And in so doing, they normalize many of the autocrat's premises that motivate the autocrat's actions. So look at what universities are doing. Yep. Universities are saying, oh yeah, there is a huge problem with anti-Semitism, forgetting the fact that Muslim students at Harvard feel more silenced than Jewish students. And Jewish students themselves are divided in their views. Young Jews are incredibly divided about their views, both about Israel and Israel's actions. All of this gets elided, and you find university administrators saying, okay, we agree with the Trump administration. There's too much diversity at DEI. These protests that many Jewish students were part of are anti-Semitic. And universities are run by Marxist leftists. Ignoring the fact that, you know, the math department is filled with people in the Democratic Party. So it's the acceptance of the premises of the Trump administration, of the Trump regime, in order to escape its wrath.
You and I are most concerned about things like universities and the media because we're supposed to be able to be free thinkers at all times. Corporate America is leaning into this, too. T-Mobile, that needs government approval for a merger, has said we're getting rid of DEI, not simply in name, but in spirit. You're seeing companies left and right folding to Donald Trump, and we're seeing media companies making deals or doing things that, while they don't, and this pertains to Hungary or India or Turkey, while they don't seem like a necessarily like a quid pro quo for a specific deal, they seem like acquiescence. They seem like bending the knee.
Anticipatory obedience, as Timothy Snyder calls it. Yeah, I mean, we can also talk about the parallels, the white supremacy, the Christian nationalism between Hungary and Trump's regime.
The anti-immigrant sentiment.
Yeah, xenophobia. Xenophobia is central to fascist ideology, great replacement theory. Orban, great replacement theory was absolutely central to Orban's rise. And the idea that a globalist conspiracy was behind the replacement of Hungary's white population. Now, of course, this reference to globalists' conspiracies resonates with anti-Semites who view Jewish people as the force behind the replacement of white people in Europe and the United States. So it is deeply ironic. It's another example of Trumpian projection, that we have a regime whose ideology is based on an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory representing itself as protecting my people, Jewish Americans.
Yep.
So that is more projection.
There's some circular logic going on there.
Yeah, and the Jewish leaders, organizations like the ADL, who've lined up right behind Trump's attacks on freedom and democracy, are exactly, they're taking advantage of the moment to advance their agenda. In the case of the ADL, supporting Israel's policies. In the case of many people in universities, what we're seeing is no, universities are not controlled by leftists and Marxists. They're controlled by anti-woke white centrists. And that's why they're using, it's both acquiescing, but also using the moment to press your individual agenda without seeing that what you're supporting is authoritarianism.
Jason, thank you. It's always good to have you on the show. We appreciate it. Jason Stanley, professor at the University of Toronto. We'll be right back.